Happy Friday, everyone. We're just giving it a moment for our virtual community to build up critical mass as people are getting settled in. So good to see each of you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Intentional Conversations VodCast and podcast. Many of you know that we do extract the audio and make it available in podcast capacity as well. We never take it lightly when our community shows up during this hour. We always find it incredibly humbling that you see this as a valuable hour to spend with us as we're learning with and from each other around all things diversity, equity, and inclusion. I am your host, Dr. Nika White. My pronouns are she, her. If you would take a moment to go to the chat, or if you're joining us via LinkedIn Live, then go to the comment section, but let us know where you're joining the conversation from. It's always a treat for us to be able to see the different geographies that are represented among our community. We have people not only throughout the United States, but we even have folks that are from our global communities as well. And we are always extremely grateful. We hope that today's show you will find incredibly valuable, that you will be willing to share it out with those in your network who you think would also gain value from the experience. At NWC, we really do value disability inclusion. And so our way of showing up in that regard, as part of the Intentional Conversations VodCast, is to make sure we have closed caption that has been enabled. And so wanted to make you aware of that in case it's helpful and useful. If you're part of our Zoom community, we do encourage cameras, but they aren't required. We just love whatever capacity in which you are gathering with us today. And we're just grateful to have you. If you feel inclined to connect with this community beyond this window of time, then maybe also consider sharing your LinkedIn information into the Zoom chat. That lets us know that you are willing to engage beyond this hour. Once again, if you are just joining, this is Intentional Conversations VodCast, where we intersect conversations of diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging with leadership and business. I am your host, Dr. Nika White, and so glad you're here. Enjoy the show. Let the conversations begin, indeed, as the screen says, and that is precisely what we're about to do. If you're just tuning in, this is Intentional Conversations VodCast, and I am so glad that you are here. Let us jump right in so we can maximize our time together today. We're still in the month of March, and that means that it's still Women's History Month, and I like to make sure that we're leaning into that any way that we can. Here at NWC, we really do honor women and all of their wonderful contributions to society. I want to draw your attention to a recent post that I did, and my team will actually share it into the chat. But it's a post that deals with several different workplace myths about women. And so in honor of Women's History, that's been one of my contributions this month to my community that follows me on social media. But I want to share a couple of them. Women are less ambitious than men. Women are more emotional and less rational than men. Women are not as good as math or science as men. Women are more likely to gossip or create drama in the workplace. Women are less confident than men. Women are better suited for support roles rather than leadership positions. Women should prioritize family over career. Women are not as competitive as men. And so I hope that you will learn more about those myths and ways to debunk them by checking out the post that I've done on this topic. At NWC, we like to also share other opportunities for you to further your learning and development around all things DEIB. And so I have been sharing out the past few weeks that 2 new courses have been released by LinkedIn Learning, courses that I have facilitated as an instructor. And those courses are navigating AI through an intersectional DEI lens, a great topic that is really top of mind for a lot of people these days. And then my second new course is Accountability for Leaders, Navigating Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. I hope you'll check those out along with the one that's been out there for about a year now, Individual Accountability for Equity and Inclusion. And if it's of value to you, then share it out with someone else in your network. You've heard me reference that not only do we bring this podcast opportunity available to the general public, but we also make the content available in podcast capacity. So if you know of some folks that just aren't able to situate their calendars to be present during this window of time every single week to join us live, they can always catch the replay through our archives and YouTube channel, or they can also catch the podcast wherever people like to get their podcast content. Now, this is an opportunity for me to give you a little bit of heads up for what you have to look forward to in upcoming weeks in terms of our Intentional Conversations guest co-hosts. And I'm super excited that on March 22nd, next Friday, I am happy to welcome Nika Malik. She has a new book out called Reimagine Inclusion. She has an incredible following of 150,000 connections on LinkedIn, and just, produces wonderful content around this broad topic of DEIB. So I can't wait to be in community with her and to center her voice and have you all to be a part of that. I also hope that you will join me the last week in March, where we're going to be closing out the week with Tiffany Castano. And in that conversation, we're going to be talking about Black women in entrepreneurship, as well as ways that, from a personal perspective and organizational perspective, we can really start to lean into a very intentional DEIB journey that is meaningful and producing impact and not activity. So I hope you'll join us on those next 2 weeks for another episode of Intentional Conversations VodCast. Now, if you've been a part of our community, you know that we always take a moment to read the full bio of our guest co-hosts. It's our way of helping you all to understand their credentials, their backgrounds, their experiences and accolades, so that you are privy to how they are showing up to the conversation. And today will be no different. I am so honored to actually welcome today and to share with each of you the voice of Janice Omadeke. She is a visionary leader renowned for her unique approach that combines compassion, empathy, and direct strategic guidance. Her expertise, which transcends traditional leadership paradigms, has garnered attention in prestigious platforms such as Harvard Business Review, Fast Company, and Inc. Beyond her entrepreneurial journey with the Mentor Method, which we'll talk lots about today, it has played a pivotal role in reshaping company cultures. Omadeke's impact extends far beyond earning her spot among Entrepreneur Magazine's Women of Influence. Her philosophy centers on empowering others to believe in their potential with the same conviction and passion she brings to her work and mentorship. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now so that I can help bring into the spotlight our guest co-host today, which I'm so excited for you all to be able to hear from. So let me add her to the spotlight. And if you've been a part of our community, you know what we do here now. We always find those emojis, those words of affirmation or accolades to let our guest co-hosts know just how grateful we are for them spending time with us during this hour. So I want you to get all those reactions and emojis going. And Janice, welcome. But before I release you to greet this audience in your own way, it is tradition here at Intentional Conversations VodCast for us to lead in with this question. Now that we've read your bio and we've heard all about your credentials and your experience and accolades, what can you share with us that we would not know about you, Janice, from reading or hearing your bio, or even looking at your LinkedIn profile? Welcome, my friend.
Thank you. It's so great to be here. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for spending some time with me this morning or afternoon, depending on your location. Something that people don't typically expect is the level of obsession I have with cooking competition shows, specifically
Really?
Top Chef. Yes, I have been a fan of that show since high school or whenever it came out. I think there's like a new season coming, and I am very excited about it.
Well, I'm excited for you. We've had a number of guests that have shared like these special hobbies or pastimes, and it's always interesting to us. It gives us a little bit of slice of life that they have when we are understanding some of the pleasantries they like to attach themselves to. So, are you a big cooker yourself?
I am, yeah. Culturally, being Congolese American, cooking is how you show love for everyone around you. And so I'm a big fan of cooking myself, but I think it's also a form of art and a form of artistry when done well. And I just love seeing the aspirations paired with phenomenal food and just the art that can come out of it. So
I love it. Yeah, you're right. Food is one of those universal languages that certainly can provide some deep connections. We break bread together over food. We have conversations and learn more about each other over food. And so I love that you have found that as part of how you like to show up and show your love for others. That's just beautiful. Okay, so let's jump right in, shall we? I want to start with you sharing with this community the journey that led you to founding your company, the Mentor Method, and how your vision transformed into this really impactful enterprise software. So tell us about it and what was that journey like?
Sure, it was an incredible journey. First and foremost, I think that's the best way to describe it. It was life-changing, not only for myself, but for the thousands of employees that we were able to touch through the software. So the Mentor Method was an enterprise platform that matched employees to mentors inside where they worked with an eHarmony style algorithm. So it matched based on personality, values, skills, and industry to take a holistic view of every employee and then show them their top 3 matches in the system. We had customers including Amazon, the Department of Education, and others. And this all started because of my own frustrations with corporate mentorship programs. I'm based in Austin now, but I was from the DC metro area. As a rite of passage, you end up working in defense contracting most of the time, which traditionally is very much the old boys club, especially in 2009 when I entered the workforce. And so, um, oftentimes when I would sign up for corporate mentorship programs, they really didn't know what to do with me because pattern matching was their approach to building mentor relationships, meaning that they were matching based on age, race, gender, and not based on career aspirations or seeing similar leadership qualities across their talent base. And it just became very frustrating because I knew that mentorship was one of the best ways to advance in my career. And so when I was working for one of the big four management consulting firms, I ended up building a mentorship program for my team, fully remote, because I knew that they deserved the best and I didn't see it out there. And so I just started tinkering with it and fell in love, seeing the results that they had. There was just a voice inside me that told me that I needed to see where else I could take this. Thankfully, I was already certified in entrepreneurship from MIT and strategic management from Harvard, never knowing that I would have a business idea. And so started working on it nights and weekends and ended up moving to Austin, Texas in 2018 for the Mass Challenge Accelerator, one of the top 20 programs in the country, and just continued to build the business from there. Became one of the first 100 Black women to raise over $1 million in venture funding. The Mentor Method was then acquired by New York-based company The Crew, September of 2022. And yeah, it's just been an incredible journey to really immerse myself in mentorship and what makes relationships work and what either employers or professionals need to do in order to create fulfilling careers for their talent base.
Okay, so I think that we need to pause in this conversation right now. And from woman to woman, from entrepreneur to entrepreneur, and it is Women's History Month. You are a women history maker. I want to say I am proud of you and say that you're doing the darn thing, Janice. I mean, seriously, if you all did not just listen to that and have all the feels, I don't know how, because you are modeling so much of what people aspire to do in a lifetime, and you have done it in such a short period of time. I won't ask your age, but we know that you're not a boomer. We know that you're not. I mean, you definitely have shown up to the world through your platform and through, of course, all the efforts that you've been associated with, where we probably could all understand that you're part of the younger generation that is really making a big impact and difference. And I am just super proud of you. And I did not want another moment to go by without saying that. So thank you. Thank
Wow.
you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
That is
No.
so kind. I received that and I appreciate it. And I think it's one of those things where when you feel so intrinsically motivated and you find your life's purpose, it all starts coming together much faster
Yes.
than you anticipate. And, I wouldn't be here without the incredible mentors that have helped me across my career. I think, I'm living proof that the stats are real, that you can advance your career 4 to 5 times faster thanks to mentorship, because my board of mentors are just incredible, incredible leaders that have helped me get to this point. And thank you again. That's just so kind.
Oh, no, absolutely. So you and I definitely share this commonality around really valuing mentorships. I often say, and I wrote this in my first book, the intentional inclusionist, that being a mentor to someone is one of the most selfless things that a person can do to add tremendous value to another individual. And I truly, truly, truly believe that. One of the things you just said is that my board of mentors have all poured into me in different types of ways. And I want to stay there for a moment because I think that there is a perception out there by some that if I just identify one person who can be a mentor across all the things, all the areas, then I am golden. And I think that you and I probably ascribe to the same philosophy, and that you need to have multiple mentors, and they each can serve different purposes. And so, talk to us about this idea of having a board of mentors.
It's so important when you are the CEO of your career at the end of the day. Your employer is a vehicle for your growth and where you are delivering the value of your career, but you are the CEO of it. And like any CEO of a successful company, they don't have just one advisor for their business. They have multiple advisors with a specific set of strengths, skill sets, and areas where they can help either the entrepreneur or the business succeed. And you should be structuring your board of mentors and how you're viewing your career in the exact same way. It's a lot of pressure for a mentor to be seen as the one that's going to solve everyone's career problems. That's not realistic. That is not feasible. And so I recommend 7 mentors that every professional should have across their career. And not all at once, it happens in stages. It depends on where you are in your career and what you're working on. But over the course of my career, there were 7 that were so impactful for me that helped me transition from, entry-level graphic designer to everything that we've discussed now. And in Mentorship Unlocked, I go into the details of all 7. And so from that list, actually, I can share, I'll just share the names of the 7 and
That
then
will be perfect.
go
That was
into
where I
the
was
rest.
going to go next anyway.
Yeah.
Yes. Tell us about Mentorship Unlocked and all of these 7 gems that we all need to have in
Sure.
our consideration set.
Sure. And so the 7 types of mentors that I recommend, the first one is the company insider. That's somebody that is inside where you work. They're giving you advice on how to acclimate to the company culture, who the key players are, the company's promotion process, how they've managed layoffs, how they view leadership development. Like there's a lot that this company insider can share about where you are today and your current employer. The skill master mentor, this individual just helps you focus on a specific skill. So if you're a graphic designer and you want to get better at using Premiere Pro, let's say, this person is the first person you think of as a Premiere Pro whiz. So you would want to sit down with them and say, hey, I'm struggling with these parts of my graphic design skill set. Can you help me get better at that over the next 6 to 12 months? Next is the money-minded mentor. This person takes a holistic view of your entire just financial landscape. So they're looking at your compensation package, they're looking at your investments, they're looking at your 401k, your side hustles, and making sure that you are actually going towards a lifestyle that is meaningful to you. Oftentimes we put a lot of pressure on our employers to be our only source of income and wealth building, but there are a lot of other ways to do that. And so the money-minded mentor will help you actually build out that plan. The industry mentor, this person is inside your industry. They don't necessarily need to be inside your organization. But again, let's use the graphic designer example because I used to be a corporate graphic designer before building out the mentor method, and now my career as author. But This person, if you're a graphic designer, maybe they're an art director. They've been in the industry for several years and have strong tenure. They've weathered all of the storms, and they can help you understand what skills you need to develop and how to navigate the entire industry for future promotions, networking associations, and help you build a better brand inside that industry so that you're not dependent upon one employer. The network mentor, that's your social butterfly. They want to make sure that you are expanding your network wherever possible because the business world is small. The influential ally, this person, it could take a few forms. There is the social capital influential ally, where their voice, brand, reputation, just giving you a stamp of approval opens up more doors for you in whatever way that means for you. That could be board placement, that could be inside your organization, that could be for a new job. But then there's also the diversity and inclusion allyship lens to being an
Yeah.
influential ally, where I mean, it's as studies have shown, as you get higher up in the corporate ladder, there's less and less diversity at the top. And so
Right.
having an influential ally in that sphere of influence who can cut through the bias that other key decision makers may bring when they view marginalized professionals, um, allows those individuals to excel in their career faster and know that they have somebody that will put their weight behind your professional reputation, which everyone
Mhm.
deserves. And then lastly, the peer mentor. This is one of my favorites. This person was recently in the same trench that you are in. So they are 1 to 2 levels ahead of you. They could be internal to your organization or not, depending on where you work. And this individual will help you understand what skills and areas to develop for your next set of promotions. They'll be able to give you a real world view of what you're aspiring to reach in their day-to-day activities because they recently entered into that role and it's very
Yeah.
fresh and real to them. They may have updates on like the latest technologies and they just have a fresher understanding of what it's like to be you today because they were just you maybe 3 to 5 years before. So
Yeah.
those are the 7 that we get into with Mentorship Unlocked. And then the book is about how to be the CEO of your career. How do you use these 7 mentors to excel your career 5 times faster? And as a mentor, how do you know which type of mentor to be and how to make it work for you? And I'm sure we'll get into even more of it, but that's just
Yes, we
a high
will.
level overview.
No, that is so incredibly helpful. And I'm glad that you gave us the 7 gems, but I'm glad that you didn't give us too much more because this gives me a chance to say that your book is out now. And I think that you just received, yes, your copies,
Here she
maybe
is.
like what, a week or so ago. I saw that you posted about it, the unboxing,
Correct.
which is always a fun experience. And people can pre-order it now. I know that mine is on pre-order. And I'm just so super excited for you. And again, it's called Mentorship Unlocked. And so, again, the 7 mentors that everyone needs to have, I did place those into the chat, but company insider, skill master, money minded, industry mentor, network mentor, influential ally, and peer mentor. And all that you described was really at a high level. The book, of course, goes more in depth across all those different types of mentors. And so, if you've often been curious about, really, how do I optimize on a mentorship strategy? And I think that word is very appropriate here because sometimes we'll just say, getting a mentor. You really need a mentorship strategy. And that is what I believe you make available through this book is helping people to understand, not at the surface level, but the deeper level, the ins and outs of how to approach the process, the value of it. And I think that sometimes we take for granted that not everyone is well equipped to know how to find a mentor, to know how to ask someone to be their mentor, and to how to be an effective mentee because it takes responsibility on both ends. And so I'm so super excited about this. I'm going to go ahead and bring in a question that's coming from the audience. Normally we shift and do it later on, but I think this is a question that probably many in this community would love to also hear you socialize around. Are there any good technical mentoring systems that guide the mentor and mentee with their engagement? Set profiles, match, pre-training, focus topics, post-evaluation, and metrics. And this question is coming from Carlos, who's joined our community today. So Janice, what would you say to that question?
Vantage Point Consulting has a phenomenal platform. We worked with them for a couple of years, actually, and they're great. The team, Jeffrey, Harold, Travis, great guys, and they are more in the education space, but expanding. And I think their thoughtful approach to it has been very, I've been impressed by it.
Okay, awesome. I did place that to the chat. Vantage Point. Yes, Carlos, you're very welcome. Thank you for your question. Okay, so let's talk about mental health. That's one of the crucial things in your book. And especially, again, it's Women's History Month, but especially concerning women and entrepreneurs. It really, really, truly is impacting those two groups pretty significantly. So can you delve a little bit into some of the strategies that you recommend for maintaining mental wellness in these two very high stress roles?
Yes, I would not be here if I didn't invest in mental health resources as of March 2020. I think the peak of the pandemic, at the start of the pandemic, rather, I was like, you know what, if I'm going to be alone, I need to be more comfortable with my thoughts. And I found my incredible therapist, Danielle. And then through Google's investment in the mentor method, I then met my leadership coach, Jeannie Sokol, that I'm still working with, 4 years later. So it's been an incredible journey to have had both of them as a part of my tribe and mental well-being team. I would say invest in a therapist to support your internal growth while also navigating high stress roles. So I just feel like this therapist is a safe space to, just get your most vulnerable, your most raw, your most unfiltered thoughts and feelings out in a space where they can then give you thoughtful feedback on your internal wiring, your nervous system, how you operate in the world to navigate those high stress situations, because not everybody handles it the exact same way. Like if somebody tells me to go for a walk and drink water in a high stress situation, I might just throw the water at them instead of drinking it myself.
True.
Like I instead need to sit down and I need to journal. I need to really like write down all of my thoughts and all of my feelings. And then once that's done, get into a strategic focus. And if I followed legacy advice versus having these resources to help me parse out how I actually need to handle stress and how I naturally am wired to work through those processes, I think it'd be a very different situation. So I love therapy. I think it's a great space. And the more you can understand yourself and how you operate and develop that personalized technique to maintain your wellness, the easier it is to navigate those high stress situations. So I think that's the first thing. And then also give yourself some grace. No one is perfect. I think when you're a leader and you're in a high stress situation and it's a highly visible role that you're in, the pressure to be perfect or the pressure to align to what Fast Company tells you need to be as a leader, or what you see as the traditional leadership archetype can be very, very hard to attain. So give yourself grace and know that you're doing your best and that your best is more than enough.
I love that. Such a great reminder. And we do talk a lot about mental health and well-being and our own personal responsibility to ourselves to make sure we're centering radical self-care. And so I think it is important for us to continue to amplify that as many chances as we can. Something that's coming up for me is that mentors should be helping us show up at our best across different ways in different spaces, right? And so I love that part of what we are bringing to this conversation is the importance of also having mentors among your seven, right, that are also able to keep you pretty grounded around prioritizing well-being and self-care and mental health. And sometimes we think that if we're already on a path or a trajectory of success, we don't need mentors, we don't need to be concerned about mental health, and it's just the opposite. It actually helps us to perform at the optimal level. And so I'm so grateful that we're able to kind of lean into this topic today. So we touched on this a little bit, but I do think it's important for us to go back to the topic of authentic mentorship networks, right? It is really central to your message, Janice, and I know that it's in your book. And so I want you to share some advice that you can offer to someone who is looking to create their mentorship circle from scratch. What if I don't know where to start? You've given us kind of the 7 different categories of mentors, but what are some of those tactics or practices to think about those in my network? And how do I even approach those individuals to build up my circle of mentors?
Yes, I think first and foremost, practice self-awareness and self-acceptance. The deeper you know, the more you know about yourself and the more you just embrace it, the easier it'll be to find people who also align and want to celebrate that. At the end of the day, your mentor should be able to see you, help you feel seen, heard, and respected, and want to amplify what makes you unique and makes you who you are versus trying to get you to fit a mold. So if you're a circle, they want to make you the best circle humanly possible. They're not trying to like shave you down so that you're suddenly a triangle. And so I think practicing self-awareness in the case of mentorship means understanding the types of people you enjoy spending time with, thinking about how you like to communicate and be communicated with, what lifestyle fits you. So for example, in the book, I talk about if you're if you like to work remotely so that you can travel and you enjoy having time during the day for a workout and you have a strong passion for problem solving and less on the theoretical sort of whiteboarding thought
Yeah.
process, finding a mentor or having a mentor who believes that productivity can't exist without being in the same office, or believes that the last one out of, that old trope, like the last one out of the office is the one that deserves the promotion, or, a different wavelength, let's say, that may not be the best fit because from a values perspective and the way that you are defining a fulfilling career will be very different. They may be great to have in your network. They may be great as an informal resource if you have a quick question, but in terms of a more structured long-term mentor relationship, you may be better suited finding someone who, even if they don't necessarily agree with that same career structure, they'll be able to embrace it and help you navigate the best way to actually build a career that gives you space to do that.
Yeah,
And so
that is really important.
yeah, I just
Yeah.
think practice that self-awareness and self-acceptance so that you're not wavered based on your mentor's opinion. It's easier for you to absorb their advice and it's easier for you to find the people that will actually help you accomplish that lifestyle if that's what you're seeking to accomplish.
Absolutely. So much goodness in what you just shared. Mentors aren't there to make decisions for us. They're there to ask thought-provoking questions, to be a resource, to help guide and inspire, and to help really what's already innately inside of a lot of us to really show forth in the best way. And so I
Yes.
love the distinction of the structure. Some individuals who we may think highly of for some reasons may be better just to have in the network if you have a quick question, as you mentioned. But what you're pointing out is be very meticulous about the title of mentor, because that serves a different purpose than just having someone as a resource from time to time. It reminds me of 2 key questions that I often like to ask when people will approach me about being a mentor to them. I always want to know why me and why now. And those 2 questions are so important because I feel like, and I want to hear your thoughts on this too, Janice, but it's unfair for a mentor to be expected to answer that question of being someone's mentor when they don't fully understand why them, right? What is it
Right.
about me that causes you to feel like you want to learn from me? And so the specificity of that connection point is so critical. Again, going back to the 7 mentors you need to have. And I think it's also important to understand why now, because sometimes people will try to secure a mentor because of some very specific goal that they're after, right? And
Right.
that's so key. So yeah, I can sense some energy from you, Janice, wanting to jump in on this. Why me and why now? Yeah. So be able to
Yeah,
answer those questions before you approach someone.
exactly. There's a checklist that I recommend people go through, and it's a quick pulse check of like why this particular person. And um, you know, when you're looking at your mentor relationship, sorry, I'm looking at the table of contents here to make sure I'm going through everything. Chapter 4 goes through how to build out your mentor persona, and it answers that question because
Perfect.
then you know exactly the type of mentor you're looking for. And when you're asked that question, why me? It's like, oh, well, I'm choosing you, Dr. Nika, because you have tenure in the industry. You have a broad network that,
Yes.
I believe would also be beneficial to my career. And your authentic and personable approach to building those relationships is something that I seek to model myself. And so, who better to learn from than somebody who has, and then you put in the bullet points showing that
Yes.
you have done the research. And it's very flattering, but it also shows a level of proactivity that every leader should be showing from day one of their careers, I think,
Yeah.
especially when you're going to ask somebody to be your mentor. There was a lot of debate on chapter 7, which is all around how to ask someone to be your mentor, which is a similar
Yeah.
style to what I just did now in terms of explaining using you as an
Yeah.
example of why now. But there was a lot of debate on whether or not I included that because 61% of all mentor relationships happen organically, where
You do.
nobody ever asks that question. And to me, that's fascinating because I like to know exactly where I stand at all times,
Yes.
everything. I am not going to leave it up to chance. And so I, wrote out chapter 7 with that in mind of how do you help someone if they're faced with needing to answer that question? How do you actually answer that? And there's a very
Yeah.
respectful and personable approach that still comes from a place of empowerment in order to do that. So I'm so glad that you brought
Absolutely.
that up.
No, it sounds like your book is so prescriptive and is an incredibly useful tool for both mentors and mentees, and even those who are again just trying to navigate what does this mean and look like exactly? How can I
Right.
really be effective in setting this up appropriately? And I love what you said, Janice, because I can't tell you, and I'm sure you probably get this too. So many times I will meet and encounter people, and they'll tell me, "You don't know this, but you're my mentor."
Mm. Hmm.
And I'm thinking, really? And and in some ways it's flattering, but in other ways it's like, oh my gosh, now this weight that's on my shoulders because I'm like, what? What have I done? Maybe that this person has been
Well,
exposed to that maybe I need to
I
rethink or
mean,
revisit.
to be
Yeah.
fair, you are incredible. So like I get it,
Oh, well,
right? And
you're
I
so
like,
kind.
but I also remember, when I first graduated from undergrad, like I didn't grow up in a culture of mentorship and networking. So my first mentors were, the articles from Marie Claire magazine's career section,
Yes,
and like
yes.
reading, like binging as many articles as I could. And so
Yeah.
those authors became my mentors, unofficially, of course. They have no idea
Yeah.
who I am, but, unofficially because I needed the support, and finding it in person through a physical connection with somebody just wasn't there. And so I do think that in our position, being externally facing, being open to supporting people in living out their aspirations and building fulfilling careers, that we can serve as unofficial mentors. It's flattering, and I think it depends on like your motivations. I think you and I are both very, we use that as fuel for the work that we've done.
Yeah,
We almost,
absolutely.
I feel like you and I almost use it as like a salve for the
Yeah.
experiential scar tissue that we've had to get the hard way of breaking
Yeah.
into different industries as maybe
Right.
one of a few or the only, or, having had to learn through challenging experiences and wanting to help others not do that. So maybe I'm biased, but I think both of us it's flattering to me when people say that.
Yeah,
I think it makes the work that you and I both do worth it, because otherwise,
right.
I think there
Yeah.
are more nervous system settling things that we could both do.
I totally agree with that. It is quite humbling. But I also do think that it reads this sense of responsibility too. I find
Yeah,
myself even stepping up a bit more when someone says that to me, when I'm in their presence, or asking questions like, what does support look like for you in this moment? So that I can step into more of the definitive mentor role that I think you talk about and you write about in your book, right? Why
yeah.
do you think that there's such a hesitancy on people's part to make those mentorship asks, or really make it official by way of communicating around again, a mentor mentee relationship in a more official way? What are those trepidations? Are people just afraid that they will be turned down? Maybe it's a multitude of things, but what would you say to that?
I think the biggest is a fear of rejection,
Yeah,
which everyone has. Even the top CEOs have a fear of rejection. That's why they
absolutely.
enjoy winning so much, right? So,
You're right.
and they'll do everything they can to win, because
Sure. And it's also why
not
a lot
winning
of
is an
C-suite
unfortunate feeling.
employees have executive coaches, right? Again, it goes back to the
Exactly.
point that this is not for someone who is failing and they need for someone to save them. It is also for those who are incredibly successful and they want to be able to maintain that high level of potential that they have and keep catapulting themselves to the next level. And
Right.
so, no, yeah,
Right. And so I think the first piece is a fear of rejection, because it's very vulnerable to say, I look up to you in these ways.
yeah,
I've done the self-work to know that I'm not as great as I'd like to be in this particular area of my career. The way that we as a society view our relationships to our work and our titles and what we contribute from a professional standpoint makes it one of the most vulnerable and intimate things that you can share when you say that you're maybe not the best in a certain area. And so when you are sharing that with somebody that you're hoping will join you in this journey of evolution, it can be stressful for sure. But
yeah,
I think that's the first piece. But then I think the other hurdle that people face is just not understanding what they're asking for, but knowing
yeah.
that they need it. It's like
Yes. Oh,
saying,
that's so good. That's so
thank
good.
you. It's like saying, I'm sick, but I don't know if I need Tylenol. I don't know if I need Dayquil. I don't know if I need a flu shot. Like, just
Yeah.
kind of going in and wanting to be diagnosed without fully knowing, what the symptoms are. And so that's why
Oh,
a lot of my advice to people is to do that self-work, is to understand what you need and what you're looking for, and diversify the mentors that you are connecting with, so that should one have to drop off, that's okay, because you still have two other mentors that you're working with on two other areas, and it reduces that pressure, anxiety, and fear of rejection when you take a more strategic CEO approach and remove, I'd say, like 5% of the emotions from it that can kind
yeah.
of blur the lines of like mentor and emotional investment.
Yeah, absolutely. Sage advice indeed. That self-awareness piece is so critical. One of the things that often surprises me is how often I will hear individuals articulate that they don't really know what they're seeking out of a mentor. And so again, it just goes back to the need for your book, for the content that you share, for your platform. We can't assume that people know exactly how to enter into those relationships. So I think that all of the resources that can be made available to help bring forth, mentorship as a great solution for catapulting ourselves to the next level is really critical. I want to talk about how you have taken this message of mentorship, and you have made it available to different organizations so that they have improved their cultures and they have created greater value to their employees. Can you share maybe some examples of that with us and some of maybe those most memorable outcomes that you are really proud of?
Sure. So I have been consulting and leading workshops on choice-driven mentorship based on the methodologies inside Mentorship Unlocked. So either virtual or in person, I'm helping organizations and their employees build out their strategic plan. So by the end of the workshop, they have their mentor personas. They know
Mm,
out of the 7, which 3 mentors they should be seeking out based on what they're working on. We've done the exercise of self-awareness and self-acceptance. On the flip side of that, for the mentors, they understand how to make mentorship work for them, building out their own definition. What are their boundaries? What type of mentor do they want to be? What type of mentees should they be mentoring? Because not everybody is meant to be a fit. Just like any other important relationship, not everyone you meet is meant to be a long-term person in your life. And so mentorship is the same way. And so through that, I've seen it's interesting. I think the most surprising piece has been the lack of the confidence in the mentees, in the mentees, let me rephrase this. The mentees' confidence is greater than the mentor's confidence. The men,
really? That is
yes,
interesting.
yeah, it's fascinating because the mentee is hungry. They're like, give me the plan, give me the steps, tell me what chapters and when, and I will do it. Like, put me in, coach. And the mentors are a little more hesitant because they feel this insurmountable pressure to live up to the strategic plan that the mentee has built. And
Mm,
instead of working together to figure out what type of relationship works for both parties so that the rising tide lifts both boats, it turns into a bit of a tug of war where the mentee is like, no, like come closer. And the mentor is like, I don't know if I'm going to do a good job or not. And so I think that was the most fascinating piece that a lot of my clients and large organizations have been able to resolve through this work. And probably the most rewarding piece is when you see the light bulb go off for all parties, including the talent management teams, because
yes.
Carlos had a question on what software to use. A lot of the software is more prescriptive than actually needed, where there's almost a dictation of this will be your mentor. You are lucky to have participated in this program because oftentimes employees only get 1 round of participating in a corporate mentorship program, and it's a lot of pressure for them to immediately connect with the person that you've matched them to make sure that this match works because they know that they may not get another opportunity to participate in a structured program like that. And it ends up setting up all parties for greater expectations, greater anxiety, and greater disappointment. And so talent management teams have benefited from my approach to choice-driven mentorship, which allows the mentees and mentors to take the pressure off, get to know each other through monthly prompts and exercises while also getting to know the other cohort members so that they're expanding their network, and maybe the person that they're working with on these monthly projects isn't necessarily the best fit for a mentor, but somebody else in the cohort is. And this employer has now set up a system where trust is being built in the employees for their own decision making, one of the top skills that any, CEO needs and any exceptional leader needs. There's trust in the corporation by showing that they know they can make better business decisions, and they've made it a more enjoyable process versus deeply regimented.
Yeah, no, that trust process is so critical because,
Yeah,
you need to be able to show up fully vulnerable, fully authentic. And sometimes we keep a lot of things close to the chest, particularly areas of maybe weakness or areas where we feel like there's a gap and we need to be upskilled around, right? And
right.
that it should be a very safe space when you are connecting with your mentor to where you don't feel trepidation about sharing anything. And so there's definitely a lot of value into building that trust and that sense of freedom and being transparent. Now, we are going to shift in just a moment. I'm sure many of you are holding some curiosities and questions, and I definitely want to give you a chance to engage with Janice directly. If you're part of the Zoom community, you can let us know that you're willing to engage in that manner by using the raise hand feature, and I will invite you to unmute yourself and share directly, and I'll add you to the spotlight. Or you can just share your question or comments into the chat, and we'll take them as time permits. If you're joining us LinkedIn Live and you have questions or curiosity, drop them into the comments section. We're watching that closely, and we're bringing them over into this environment. But as you maybe continue to percolate on those questions that could be surfacing, I'm going to go a little bit deeper to give you a chance to keep thinking. But my question is, and this relates to what you just shared in terms of your impact in organizations. And what I think is really important, I don't want it to be missed. In fact, I want you to expound upon it a bit more, is that I have seen both ends of the spectrum to where a mentorship program has been so prescriptively structured to where it did not leave the level of validity that could have been benefiting to both the mentor and the mentee. But then I've seen it on the other end to where it has not been structured to where the experiences across a group of employees in an organization that is being supported with this formal mentorship program has not really yielded the impact or the output or been effective. And so there's almost like a little bit of a balance that you have to strike between both ends, right? And so how do you navigate that, Janice, when you are working with organizations?
Yeah, so I start by looking at the employee pulse data. If they've had previous mentorship programs, learning what works and what doesn't. A big trend that I've seen across most mentorship program pieces of feedback is that it takes time to build trust. Just
Right.
because your employer says, this is your mentor, now go forth and prosper. If you've never met this person, you need time to build trust in that individual, either as a mentor or a mentee. And so, taking the pressure off of needing to immediately be bonded the way you are with a mentor has been helpful. I have my clients, I'm trying to redact their names, so I just want to make sure that I'm respecting
No,
their hard work.
absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
one of my clients recently actually set up a 6-month mentoring program. They're on their third iteration that I helped them build
Mm,
out. And so um, they have their matches that they've set up inside their diversity and inclusion team, and I think that's great. And then they have a monthly theme for these matches, which are really more like connections. So they're not saying
okay.
this is your mentor, this is your mentee, but we think you two would get along well. Kind of like a blind date setup where they're like, no
Yeah.
pressure to get married, but maybe just go get coffee. But
You
it's
should
kind
meet to
of
get
that
coffee.
setup.
Yeah.
Yeah, like maybe you should just say hi. And so they have monthly projects where maybe the first month is 5 slides that show um, personal items that mean something to them. So it could be their grandmother's scarf, it could be a picture of their family hiking because they do that every
Yeah.
Sunday, but building those opportunities for vulnerability in a safe way that still kind of have a wing to their professional careers. And so maybe the first month is, those 5 slides of what matters to them and the most important people in their lives and why. And then in alignment to that, they'll bring in a speaker, either a member of leadership of that organization or an external speaker, and have them discuss a topic related to that monthly project with those pairs.
Yeah.
So for example, there was, I think like month 4 out of 6 was thinking about their career future and where they want to go because it's been enough time that the trust has been established where you can get really vulnerable
Right.
in how you envision your career. So they brought their career vision statements. I like to call it
Mm,
I like to call it the Wes Anderson career description. He's a director. He makes like he makes just incredible movies. And the way that he illustrates the protagonist is full of like spice and color and depth and
mhm.
description. And so these employees bring those descriptions on how they want their careers to be viewed and how they want to be viewed in their positions. And then the other person helps them parse out where they could actually do that inside the organization. And then they would bring in a leadership coach to help with imposter syndrome since you're now
Yes.
envisioning future you. How do you ensure that you're not blocking your ability to actually reach that? And it's fun. I love being able to structure mentorship programs. As you can tell, I'm like glowing from it, just
You
thinking about it
are
now. I know I such a nerd, but here we are.
not a nerd at
Um,
all. It's
I love
incredible. It's
mentorship.
incredible.
Well, I mean, it's so important. Like it's one of the most important relationships that you can build in your career. And
Yeah.
I can go from, you know, entry-level graphic designer, 4 roommates in DC, having to decide between groceries and putting gas in my car, to Austin, Texas's first Black woman to have a venture-backed tech exit in less than a decade because of the
Yeah.
power of mentorship.
Yeah.
The sky is the limit for anybody who really applies themselves in finding those right people, I think. So, yeah,
Absolutely. I think so too. No one gets to where they end up or where even they're going on their own. No one. And
no one.
so, yeah, no one. And again, it's such a selfless act. I find it interesting that in this conversation, a lot of the examples have been more around the workplace and like career trajectory. But I do want to make it clear, and this also was amplified when you talked about the money minded kind of mentor, right? I mean, that encompasses all areas of life because we need money and we need to be able to manage money well in order to survive and thrive. And so that is important. But what I also want to bring to the conversation is that there is equal amount of merit into thinking about a mentorship strategy for areas that are not necessarily directly connected to your career.
Yes.
For example, I have a mentor for my fitness journey. I have a mentor for my spiritual journey. You know, when I was going through my doctoral program, and while some could argue that yes, that was for the intent of, really being on this trajectory of my career, I had a mentor that specifically was helping to guide me through that season of life as I was getting through that program. And so I want to just get your thoughts on that. Is that something that you also speak to in your book, or do you mostly do it from a standpoint of the career aspirational side?
I discuss the importance of having mentors outside of your career. I think uh, they they all overlap at a certain point. You know,
They
you
do.
spend so much time at work that it impacts what you have bandwidth for in your personal life. You know, if you have a job that requires 100 hours a week, you
Yeah.
have a very small set of hours per week for hobbies and activities and how you're viewing other areas of your life. So I think they all overlap, but yes. And I agree with you. You know, when I was going through the egg freezing process 2 years ago, I had mentors that helped me,
Yeah.
navigate
Yeah.
through the throes of fundraising as well. Like it was a lot. And so, I had mentors and I still have mentors that as a woman I go to understand other areas of my life outside of, my passions for mentorship and my consulting work and, writing the
Yeah.
book and everything. It's
Yeah.
so important.
Yeah, so much admiration for you. I mean, just the fact that you willingly, intentionally brought to the conversation your egg freezing mentorships. I think that is so critically important. No, I mean, seriously, y'all, we need people in our in our corners to help us navigate these big decisions and to know what to expect. And so much value to it. And I'm grateful that you brought that to the conversation. I have also started having conversations with my daughter about the same thing. I think sometimes if we don't talk about these topics, it can cause us to, just kind of retreat and try to figure it out for
Yeah.
ourselves. And again, no one should be going through these things alone because we all are probably having to experience it or someone within our circle that's experiencing it as well. The other thing too is mentorship can look vastly different from mentor relationship to mentor relationship. There are also a lot of peer mentor groups. I know of a lot of organizations, even some of our clients who have structured programs very specifically where not only does it include the one-to-one kind of coaching or mentorship, but it also includes peer mentoring, which I think is important. There's a lot of like individuals that will join mastermind groups or brain trust groups. I'm a part of a couple of them. And so mentorships can look, and show up differently based upon, again, kind of what's going to align best with how to support, you at the individual level. And so I think it's also important to mention that. Are you seeing a lot of that too, Janice?
I am, yeah, especially right now with the increase in layoffs in the tech space, especially.
Yeah. Mm,
I'm seeing a lot of alumni groups, let's say. So if a large
yeah.
organization lays off, hundreds or thousands of employees, there will be a new LinkedIn group that pops up that's, alumni of X organization post layoff, let's say. And
Yes.
building those peer mentor groups to say, I'm working with this headhunter and
Yep.
they were really helpful. If you're a product manager as well, you may want to reach out to them. And this magical. I mean, it's unfortunate, right? Like
Yeah.
it's hard to watch. You know, I have friends that are deeply impacted by the decisions that are being made by large tech corporations right now with layoffs or kind of forcing their hand with augmenting the remote or hybrid
Right.
structure. But
Yeah.
um, I have loved seeing the way that people are taking the reins and that control back by building community and building their peer mentor tribe to share resources, to do peer resume reviews, to provide
Yes.
that emotional support in how
Yes.
hard that journey can be. And,
Yes.
you know, even I found it when I was writing Mentorship Unlocked. I think I even referenced it in the acknowledgments, like my literary mentors were all peer
Yes.
mentors. They were people that I've known for years from past lives, either as a graphic designer or, you know, in my tech entrepreneurship season, that they've already written books. They've gone on and, you know, have taken on the next chapter, no pun intended, and
Yes.
be able to have reached out to them and say, "Hey, I'm joining you in this particular area. Can we just talk about what I need to know, what I need to say, and who I need to say it to?" was extremely helpful and helped
Yes.
settle my nervous system. So yeah, I love peer mentors. In terms of structured organizations that are doing a good job, Black Women Tech Talk Tech has a great community.
Okay.
All over, like a global community. I think they're wonderful. For leaders, 110 is a good organization that's doing a lot of inclusive work to support leaders and how they're advancing Black professionals, especially. And I think that's absolutely wonderful. Um, Somebody had mentioned inroads, but I don't know if they're still around. But
Oh my God.
they're not anymore. Okay.
I don't
Um,
know. I was saying I don't either, but
okay.
I do recall them at one time being,
Right.
yeah, but I haven't
Yeah.
seen too much about them of late. So
It's been a minute. So I don't know if they're still around, but I know that they were doing phenomenal work too.
yeah,
And then there are also conferences that can serve as supplements for that community.
yeah.
Black Enterprises Women Empower Summit that's taking
Mhm.
place in Las
This
Vegas in
month.
a couple of weeks. Yeah. Are you going?
I'm not. I've been before several times. It's always a wonderful, well done conference, but I won't be making it this year.
Okay, I'm going for the first time. I'm so excited.
Oh, you will love it. You will
Oh
love it,
my
and they will
gosh.
love you.
Yeah, I'm
That's
looking
great.
forward to it. But organizations
Awesome.
like that, more inclusive ones like Lesbians Who Tech is also a great organization that
Yeah.
provides a lot of peer mentorship. So there are a lot out there, and I think there's like a new one every other month that I see pop up on my radar.
Yeah. So resources abound right now. That's one of the
Yeah.
takeaways. So do not let feeling the lack of know-how to prevent you from being able to really lean into the value of having a mentor strategy. And so this has been such a rich conversation. I know that I learned a lot. I've been challenged a lot as well in terms of even my mentor-mentee relationships. And so I'm going to take all of this back. We are out of time, and I regret that because I feel like we could have gone on for another hour. I didn't see any questions come up, but we did share Janice's contact information. And so for those of you who are looking to reach out to maybe establish your own direct relationship or just to network, then certainly feel free to connect with her on LinkedIn. Get her book, get her book, get her book. I cannot wait till mine gets here. And I want to give you yes, Mentorship Unlocked. I want to give you the final like 30 seconds to close this out in your own way, whatever makes sense to you. Close this out, Janice.
Hmm. Having a fulfilling career is a fundamental right. Don't let anybody tell you that you don't deserve it. You do. And with the right strategy, you can get there faster. And it would just be an honor to play a part in that fantastic journey.
Awesome. Fantastic. Have a great and safe weekend. We'll see you back here next week for another episode of Intentional Conversations podcast. Thank you so much, Janice. We're so grateful. Bye bye.